we are live, and we are good to go. And we apologize. We know we said or there were going to be four of us, and actually there are four of us. But you can't see Mr. Corey Gomes, so
Mm.
I apologize that I can't allow you to see his lovely face today. It's not, I can't allow. I don't know what the system is doing. But Corey, can you say something just to let us know you're alive?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
Listen at the enthusiasm in his voice. Come on,
I know,
brother.
right? I know. He wants to be seen so bad. My apologies. They can't see your lovely face. I don't know your lovely face. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Thank you,
Can't back
Steve.
that up
I love
either,
you
'cause
too.
this is recorded forever, brother. This is on the internet. You can't back that up.
I can't even say that with a straight face. Lovely face. My goodness. Well, hello everyone who's out there in the world. How are you doing? I see Diva. See a couple more people. Good morning. Good morning. So we're gonna go ahead and start and have this conversation about building community. Super excited to have everybody that's on. Once again, I know we can't see Corey, but I'm still excited to have Corey on with this conversation. I think one of the ways I want to start, of course, we're going to introduce all of you or have you introduce yourself. You know, when I was thinking about this, and all four of you, when I was like, man, all of us have so many. We have a very unique, every one of us. We have a very unique audience, but then we also have a very unique community, right? So I don't think either, we don't have a similar community amongst the four of us. So I'm actually pretty excited about that because now there's going to be some people out there in the audience who are going to, wonder about their style of community that they should actually build. So that's going to be really cool that we have this diversity of communities. So we are going to start with ladies first. Ladies first, not you, Corey.
I was waiting. I was see. I was waiting for it.
Oh my.
Yeah,
Don't be like that. Okay,
Tanya,
okay.
Tanya, you don't know. James knows. You don't know the half of it. This situation that we got going on. Everyone, don't get offended. Corey and I love each other, so it's all good. So, Tanya, could you introduce yourself? Talk about your newsletter. What you do, audience that you serve, and then mention your community, and then we're gonna go around the horn with that.
All right, and I'll keep it brief because I want Corey to have time. I want him to have some
You definitely the
airtime.
nice one on this stream.
Yeah,
Everybody
I
else.
will be. I'm going to
Thank
be
you,
your
Tanya.
champion. I'm
Thank you,
Corey's
Tanya.
champion. So I am Tanya Smith, and I am a video marketing strategist, and I have been new. I'm actually new to Substack. So
Mhm.
fairly new within the past couple of months, but I'm not new to the game. I have been around as a video marketing strategist for several years now, and the focus of my newsletter is really the foundation of it is my live stream. I do a weekly live stream called Stream Like a Boss TV, where I basically teach other live streamers, podcasters, coaches, consultants how to leverage video so that they can really show up. So they stand out online, serve more people, sell more of their services. And that's the focus of what I do. So I decided to move to Substack because I've been looking for a way to become more platform independent.
Mm.
And one of the things the planting of the flag right now for me is around the idea of this platform proof content
Mhm.
that we get to leverage our live streams, our podcast, all of the things that we do to be able to draw people to us and to create these communities. So the community that I've built around my live stream every week for the past several years since 2021 is called Stream Bosses Academy. And it's been just a really exciting adventure. It has morphed and changed over the years. But many of the same community members that joined in 2021 are still with me now in 2025. So excited to have this conversation.
Excellent, excellent. You got some love already in the comments. Haiku. says she loves your mini workshops, your mini work
Thank
sessions.
you.
And Dill Casters, Mr. Chris Stone is in the house. And here's the interesting thing before we get to James. I actually have the live stream on my desktop open, and guess whose face I can see?
Lord have mercy.
You can see Corey?
I can see
Lord.
Corey, but I can't see James over here on my
Oh.
yeah. So this is the interesting thing.
Oh, we're gonna have to cut this whole
Ha.
thing. We got to stop the whole thing. Oh,
That's the interesting thing. So well we will let the voice go and let Corey, discuss his who Corey Gomes is. You can hear him if you can see his face, on the phone, you can go onto the desktop and see his lovely face. You can't
I'm
see
glad
James.
you told me. I'm glad you told me. 'Cause I was over here acting like no camera was on me.
Uh-oh.
All right, everybody. My name is Corey Gums. I am I wasn't gonna flex, but because Steve started, so I'm gonna flex today because of Steve. But I'm the founder of the Black Podcast Association, founder of BlackPodNews.com, which you can read right here on Substack. I am also a sitting board member of Air Media, Association of Independent Radio Producers, as well as
That's
a
right.
sitting member on the Judging Academy for the Signal Awards. So, Steve, when you put in your podcast for the Signal Awards, no. You know that now. But that's just some of the many hats I wear. But my community is the Black Podcasters Association, and it's a online community for Black podcasters and professionals within the industry. And I created it because we didn't have a safe space for Black content creators at the time, and it's just ballooned into this wonderful community. We have over 200 members now, so I'm excited about that. We just reached that milestone last month. So Steve is a member. I thought I sent invites to you guys too, but if not, I'll fix that. James, I know I sent you one.
I'm waiting for you to fill out that invite to the live stream.
Oh yeah. But that's what I do. But we just celebrated our 3rd year anniversary as the Black Podcast Association, but we started as a Facebook group right when COVID hit. Yeah. 5 years ago. So it's been a nice journey, a journey of learning and connecting with people. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to talk for you to talk about that journey because I remember the Facebook days and to where it is now, to be able to be part of, that growth, and maturation of your idea is amazing. I know I bust your chops a lot, but you know how much I appreciate you, man, and you've helped me so much with my community, so appreciate that. All right, Mr. the one and only, Mr. James Hicks, all the way on the left coast, early in the morning.
Now too.
Early in the morning.
You don't have me on desktop. I'm at the active food.
I really appreciate you.
Listen, first and foremost, though, brother. So I'm gonna give some flowers, but first and foremost, thanks for the invite to be on this panel. James Hicks New Media, been doing digital publishing and technology consulting for a while, way before this gray hair, if you could see it on the desktop. My community here on Substack is called The Digital Collective. You can reach it at digitalcollective.media. And I talk about the business of technology, right? I've been in enterprise technology for about 3.5 decades, and the idea of getting technologists together to talk about the why of their story, the why of either their hardware, their software, or their service, and how it resonates with individuals and how it resonates with organizations as well. Those are the interesting conversations that I have been fortunate enough to have for quite a while. Enough about me. I want to go back a little bit. And Steve, I know every time I get on one of your streams, I mess up everything. But
that's all right.
First and foremost, Tanya said, she knew the Substack. Tanya then took over Substack, folks.
Wow.
Listen, if you've not subscribed to her newsletter yet, please do.
Yeah, 100%.
Because she's out here doing that real good work. And someone who is me, Steve, and Corey grind. We out here doing hard work, but Tanya out here don't quit. And I don't understand how she does it. But so please follow her and make sure that you're following everything that she's putting out because it's valuable content.
Yeah.
All my new subscribers today on the newsletter. I'm gonna hit y'all up with like a discount code for merch too. I'm in that mood. You
You're
get
in
me
that
up
movie?
early
Oh,
on a Sunday,
on
so
a
I see
Sunday.
let's see Taylor. Shouts out to Angie. Shouts out to and my last one before I go. Happy
Yeah.
birthday to you, Dr. Stone. Happy birthday. It's Chris Stone's birthday today. So
Oh,
yeah, I'll put your
oh,
Oh,
business out there in these
happy
streets, man.
birthday.
Happy
Happy
birthday.
happy
birthday,
Happy
Chris.
birthday.
birthday.
All right.
Annie's here joining us, so I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
I
So
love you too, Corey, man. I'm sorry. Listen, when you fill out that form so you can come on the live stream, then I'll
Yeah,
give
Wow.
you
yeah,
some
yeah.
more shouts out.
that's
Okay.
good.
I
That's
got you.
good. That's good.
All right.
All right. So last but not least, myself, so Steve Worthy, the newsletter is Worthy Retail Leadership. Worthy Retail Leadership. As it's in the name, right? What we focus in on, it's retail leadership. The company that we have is Worthy Retail Global, and everything we do is around developing a platform and ideas for the unspoken challenges for retail leaders and their teams. Um, Excited to talk about this idea around community. The community that we have is the campus. It is what we call the third place for leaders. Right? It's not home. It's not work, but it's a very strategic place where people can come, get the resources and ideas that they need to move forward, move themselves forward first, and then they can actually take that information and take it back into the marketplace, take it back to their teams, take it back to their organization. So that's what we're focused in on. So I'm excited to have this conversation about the campus, and everybody else's community as well, except for Corey's. So one of the things that I put in here was around, and I think I don't know if I put it in the actual copy, but I said something along the lines of like, a lot of people are chasing followers, and it's not about that. It's about building communities. When you hear that statement, what do you guys initially think about? And once again, we'll start with the ladies first.
Oh goodness. It really, really is about communities. It's about connection. Right now, in this moment, is a time, it's an opportunity for us, even more so than years ago when we all started our different spaces, right?
Yeah.
Right now is a time for us to really go all in on what our value systems are and to create discussions and conversation spaces with people who are not only like-minded, but
Yeah.
people who really need to be influenced and impacted by what we have to share. And I think that followers is one thing. Followers and fans and vanity metrics, that's something, right? But to me, I'm all about more value driven discussion. And I think that community is centered around value driven discussion, value centered discussion,
Hmm.
people actually making a positive impact so that there's change and transformation on the other side of it.
Mm.
I think following, again, is really more about the visibility and, okay, I see all these numbers and that's great. But if it's doing nothing for the culture, if it's doing nothing for society, if it's not changing minds and creating positive energy towards something that is good for all of us,
Mm.
then I feel like it's not worth it. So
Wow.
to me, there's a differentiation.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. One of the things that come to mind when something that you were saying, and I think this holds true for everybody that's on here. And this will resonate. It should resonate with people who are listening to this in the audience who are thinking about a community. I think part of what you were the underpinning of what you're talking about is like, how do you sort of start the conversation and not allow the conversations to sort of be thrusted upon you, right? Because as a follower, that's what you're doing. You're sort of following a person's conversation, but I think in a community, you're creating the conversation that you want others to follow. So
Yes.
I love that. So Corey, what are your thoughts when you hear that phrase?
For me, I look at community like I look at my community outside. It's a place where like-minded people come together for a common cause or common goal, and they all bring something to the table that everybody can benefit from. It's an exchange between the members of the community. So I look at it as
Mm,
a place where you can give, but you can also take, and everybody wins because of it. And that was the idea.
Mhm.
That was the basis of the idea when I started the Facebook group and the online community was, can we have a place where everybody brings something to the table, but they can also take what they need from it, and just keep having that reciprocal exchange going.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I love that word exchange, man. That's great. I can see you studied the dictionary before you came on. That's great. That's awesome.
See, Steve.
I'm sorry. I try to keep it professional. I can't with you. James, what are your thoughts?
Listen, you think about it. I've used the word with you guys a lot too about inner circle. Right?
Mm,
It's really the folks, and I think you guys have all restated this as well. Folks that have access to the table and have a say in the direction of the thing, whatever the thing is. So the community really, for me, has helped shape a lot of direction, a lot of content, a lot of strategy, a lot of purpose. Right? I
Mhm.
knew what I wanted to do. I knew who I wanted to serve. But
mhm,
as the messages were going out there and folks got more engaged, got more involved, and we connected more,
Mhm.
key members of the community started saying, James, how about now focusing on this is what we want to hear and see more of from you? And those trusted representatives of the community, those inner circle folks were the ones that I listened to and said, you know what, you speak for pretty much the majority of the recipients of this content. So let's build something together. Because neither one of us, no one out here creating content is doing it for ourselves.
Mhm.
mhm.
And you said it right. It's
Yeah,
not about the
yeah,
metrics.
yeah.
It's we look at the metrics and we're all analytical people. I know where we all know where folks are coming from, when they come, what type of devices, right? So we live in the metrics, but it's not about how many subs, how many super chats, how much merch, how many get subscribe. It's not about that. It's about can I reach one and teach one?
Mhm,
Yes.
Can
mhm,
someone get the message today and then carry that on moving forward? Something that improves their life, improves their day-to-day engagements and interaction with their folks. That's
Mhm.
when you know you got when someone leaves that comment on one of your video sessions, interviews, or whatever, says this
mhm,
really resonated with me and helped me with something that I'm working on. That's that aha moment. That's that fuel that we need. It's
Mhm.
not the the likes are good for the algorithm, but what's good for us as the individual, as the creator who's back here blood, sweating, and tearing, putting all this stuff together,
mhm.
is knowing that someone resonated and someone really accepted the message that we're sending out and said, do more of that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's that's what the community has for us. And
Nah,
for me.
that's good. And if anybody in the chat has a question, please don't hesitate to put it in there so we can answer that question for you. Thank you for everybody that's putting some comments into the chat. A couple people saying, yeah, it's only we only see three. Yeah, we see three whether it's on your iPhone or your phone or it's actually on the desktop. It's I don't know what the issue is, but
Y'all come
uh
over here on your mobile device because I'm over here.
you know what is interesting? Other people may see a different three, depending on the desktop. Possibly, I don't know. Well, here's a question, and this is going to be a little bit more specific for your community, right? So Simon Sinek has gotten us everyone spoiled with his whole book, right? Start with why and all of that good stuff, right? And we hear it all the time, but the reality is that not a lot of people do, right? They want to go right to the solution around whatever it is that they're trying to solve. What specific problem? Because I think this is once again the idea is like we're not going to be talking across the table to each other, but the idea is like for whoever is in the audience, they need to think about this. Like, what specific problem does your community solve? So, and James, since you stopped and you last spoke, I'll let you lead off with this question.
It's a whiff of conversation,
Mm, mm,
meaning what's in it for me.
mhm,
Right. Bringing information to folks that matter and that resonate within the business of technology industry. So that's
mhm,
very broad scope, but I've narrowed it down to be again folks that are in that C-suite, folks that are in that data center world, folks that are in that service provider world, and all these new pieces of technology are coming out at us every single day. If and we're all in sales, regardless of what you do in life, we're all in sales. So why should I be utilizing Substack? Why should I be using all these new YouTube tools. Why should I be using these data storage organizations or these new services and things of that? So I'll bring in those folks and have those conversations. So what's in it for me is really the guiding light for me in terms of the content that I create and for the resources that I bring in to have conversations with. If it doesn't bring some value to the end user, I'm not just going to go out there and do random content. And I'm not done
Yeah.
that before. It didn't resonate.
Yeah.
Didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, and folks could see it in my eyes that I wasn't excited about it. So as long as there's something that brings value and there's that, and they can answer that, what's in it for me conversation.
Mhm.
That's kind of that guiding light. So it's kind of the why. Why do this? Because I'm bringing that end value. I keep coming back to that same statement. What's that end value to the recipient, not the end value to me? But Corey, what are you doing? He's still doing laundry, brother. All
I
this
know.
bringing.
I think he's doing like drum practice
Sound
over
No,
there.
something
or
you
fell on
something.
my
sound like you
desk.
got kids in there just wrestling in the back.
Seriously?
I'm like, what are you doing?
Why is my
No,
noise gate not work? My noise gate is not working. Then if
Yeah,
you're hearing
I
that
don't know what
sound.
you got,
it's
brother, but
obvious to
I'm
everyone
out here
that it's
dropping
not.
gems, and you out here, you out here.
This is
There
why.
we go,
This is
brother.
why.
There-
This is
the
why.
what's
This
in
is
it for me
why.
conversation.
I love what you said. And guy I follow all the time, Josh Spector, and he talks about the idea
Mm.
around no random acts of content.
Mhm.
Every piece of content, everything that you do needs to have a purpose and intent behind it. That's our good friend
Hey,
Doc.
our friend Stephanie Lou used to call them no drive-by live streams.
No drive-by
Yes.
live streams. Right,
Right.
Yes,
And the
right.
first time
yes.
she heard when she said that resonated with me so much. I said, you know what, you're right. No more just
Mhm.
drive-by live streams.
No, just getting on talking about whatever. So you can't do that.
Mhm.
Tanya, what specific problem does your community help solve for anybody that's thinking about starting a community, but also thinking possibly about joining yours?
So initially, and I'll tell you this, initially we started out with the focus on, hey, everybody, I want you to learn how to create live streams,
Mm,
right? It was real simple, I thought. What I discovered is that that was not what they really needed.
mm,
It's what I thought they needed. And so, to the point that Hicks made so eloquently, sometimes it's about you listening and seeing what the people are asking from you. Like, what do they
yes.
really want and need from you that only you can give? And so for us, there is a framework that we've built the community around, and it's also the essence of everything pretty much that I talk about. And it's 4 parts. It's a boss framework. So it starts with brand clarity. So I had particularly women, mostly women. I have one man in my
Mhm.
group. We call him the lucky guy.
Mhm.
But brand clarity and getting really clear about who you are, who you serve, and what your message is.
Yeah.
The O is for offer based content. So understanding if I'm going to be creating content, like you said, no drive-bys, right? How am I creating content that I'm putting out into the world that really is focused on the offers of service that I can actually deliver?
Mhm, mhm,
The S number one is for smart systems. They were coming to me because they wanted to know how to automate, how to set up systems, what the workflows were like that were related to the content that I share. And
mhm,
then social engagement, this idea that many of us in my space are introverts like me.
mhm,
And they were looking for a place where they felt safe and where they felt like, you know what, I can socially engage in a way that resonates with me. I don't have to be necessarily an extrovert constantly, thinking and processing out loud. I can process internally and in a safe space. And because of all of that, especially the last S, we ended up doing more co-working in our space.
mhm, mhm.
We had a training day and then we had multiple co-working days. And now we are primarily a co-working space where we're bringing ideas to the table.
Love
We're
it.
crowdsourcing, we're sharing tech, we're sharing resources. And sometimes we just vent because we
Mhm.
need that time too.
Love
And
it.
it's just been really important to me to create a safe and sacred space for us to be able to feel like we can talk about the things that matter to us.
Yeah, I love that. There's two things you said a whole bunch of dope stuff, but the two things that I was writing down, and the last one I didn't write down, was a co-creation, right? I think when you think about your community, anybody that's thinking about a community, it's not just about you initially, right? It's about you and your ideas and you putting forth whatever it is problem that you want to solve. And we're going to get to Corey here in a second. But then I think as it starts to, um, sort of germinate, you start to get people that are buying in to your idea, buying into the problem that you're solving. So now instead of you just having to be the author of all of the content or all of the ideas, there's co-creation that begins. And now as an individual, right, it's great, but then when you start to get to some of the parts together, the overall community starts to take on a completely different perspective. When we started the campus, one of the things I had started a community in 2017, and I didn't have the idea or concept right, so it was using Mighty Networks. We'll talk about platforms here in a second. But it didn't go where I had intended it to, because I didn't think about the actual audience that I was serving and how they learn and what they want from a community.
Yeah.
And what I've seen was that, a lot of retail, especially senior retail leaders, they want some anonymity, right? A lot of them don't want to know that they don't want other people to know that they're getting help.
Yeah.
Right? They don't want to know that they're part of this leadership community. And so part of this is, how do we respect that anonymity while giving them what they want? And so I've sort of created a culture where it's like, listen to me, you can post if you want, right? But you're not required to post. You're not required to say, "Oh my gosh, my day was so and so, this and that." Like, you're not required to do that. The goal is to get information, right? And digest it, and ideally leave me some ideas of what else do you want to see, and then we start creating more around that idea around co-creation than it just myself bringing those ideas. And then the last thing you said, what they need, right? That's we have to figure out like what the audience needs, because James said it earlier. We're creating the community is not about us. It's about the people that's actually inside the community that we want to serve. So Corey, what specific problem, does the Black Podcasters Association solve, sir?
It's evolved over the years. I think the biggest one is the one that I keep hearing all the time, especially when people come to our events or they meet me or when they begin to join or when they hear about it, is that they thought they were by themselves. We have a lot of Black podcasters who feel they're, especially since I live in New York and some of the other major markets, you have more access. But for a lot of other podcasters in smaller markets, smaller cities, smaller areas, it's a very lonely journey for them. I mean, it's lonely here too, but it seems like the impression I'm getting is it's a very like isolated thing for people. And when they hear that there's a community out there for them, they light up and they're like, oh my gosh. And then they meet members and they come to an event or something that we do, or a live or workshop that we do. And they're like, I needed this. So I think that's the most important thing we do, is we show people there's a space where they can come, and it's a welcoming space, thanks to everybody but you, Steve, because you barely show up anymore, because he's blowing up. He's a big guy now, but
Sorry, man.
we still love you.
I'll make a guest appearance later today, just because of that.
Steve is always like, I forgot, but at the end of the day, I think you mentioned the why part, and I think people need to understand too, as community builders, it's a dynamic thing. It's constantly evolving, right? You get new people coming in. And my biggest fear is the scaling part, because like anything else, when you start to get bigger and bigger, you got to make sure you maintain those core components of your community, and that's just the natural order of things. What happens when you have large amounts of people, we see it in companies, we see it in communities and stuff like that. But for me, the why has evolved. Though sometimes I ask myself why I'm doing it, and I'm constantly asking myself why I'm doing it, why I did this to myself. Why do I torture myself the way I do? But there's always that person that comes and tells me how much this means to them, and that's what keeps me going. But the why is really, unfortunately, and I was even questioning, for the past, before this election cycle, I was questioning, was there still a need for a Black Podcasters Association, and maybe why not a more broader community for
Mm,
podcasters.
mm.
But as we're seeing, as we're seeing with this election cycle, there's definitely a need for it. It's definitely going to have to remain a need
Yes.
for it, because the bro space in the podcasting industry still runs the gambit. Still leads the pack, and it's a very dangerous place. And we need a safe space for Black creators. And I tell people all are welcome. It's just
Yeah, yeah,
it's mainly for us, but that's been my main. That's been the real why. It's like we just need a safe space. We need a space where we can be ourselves. I think
Yes.
people fail to realize that Black people are not monolithic, and we have members from all over the world that come in and bring different bits and pieces of their cultures, their thoughts, and stuff that makes everybody else better. So
that's
that's why it's important. There's a space where everybody can communicate, collaborate, and learn from each other.
yeah, yeah. I love that. You mentioned something. You touched upon something that I want to get everybody's perspective on. I know I didn't put this in the question, but I think one of the sort of latent benefits of a community is the globalization of your community
Mhm.
that sometimes you don't even think about, right? You get people in your community and they're all over, they're from all over the world, right?
Yeah.
Sharon and I were talking about this, the other day, because as a leader, I've always had sort of a global mindset and perspective. And she asked, like, where did that come from? And I said, well, when I was in grad school, I actually had, a very diverse cohort. And we had this problem to solve, and I solved it in a very American way, right? And then they were
Mhm.
like, well, hey, well, what about this?
Yep.
How about we do it this way? Well, how about we do it this way? I was like, dang, I didn't even realize how fixated my mind was on solving a problem a
Mhm.
certain way. And I think that mindset is filtered through, everything that I do. But when you think about your community, was it, because I know all of you have a very global community. Was it intentional, or was it just the fact that, they liked your messaging and that's something that they were attracted to? Tanya? Uh,
I'm going to say this. I have never fit into a box
mm,
ever. I just haven't. Um, a large part of my marriage, which now is going on 31 years this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
Outstanding.
you. A large part of my marriage has been in and out of the country. My husband is primarily overseas most of the time. My daughters and I, and my husband, with or without my husband, have actually traveled to Europe and to Asia and to a lot of other different countries because we are open to learning. We have had opportunities in our lives to be able to be exposed to other influences besides the American influence. And we
Mhm.
recognize we're not the only ones in this space,
Mhm, mhm.
right? And so I'm really grateful for that. And because of that, I think that it has really reinforced this idea in my community spaces, the intimate small communities that I create, because most of mine are intimate and it's
Mhm,
for a reason. But when we create these spaces and when we are gathered in those spaces, I want them to see possibilities
mhm.
and not just see one path. And so I feel like because you, as the leader of your community, sets the tone and the
Yeah.
pace for how things run, because I have that mindset, it's opened up other people's minds that are in the spaces that
Yes.
I create so that they too can feel like, okay, you know what? There is more than one way that I can accomplish what I'm trying to set out to accomplish. So
Mm,
I think the globalization for us is natural in that I get to attract the people who I'm most like,
yeah.
right?
That's good. I know we have a question from Kay Wilkes. We'll get to that here in a second. James, you wanna shed your thoughts on the idea around globalization? Because I know you deal with that in your regular job,
Yeah.
right? But and how is that mindset sort of filtered into what you do, with your community?
I'm a reiterate and restate kind of what Tanya was saying. I think it may be a military mindset because again, I'm coming from that as well. 27 years in the Air Force from my father, so being in different locations, moving from state to country every year and a half to 2 years,
Mhm.
you respect and you get an understanding of how other folks operate.
Mm.
And there's value in that and there's benefit in that, right? We pretty cool, but other folks think that they just as cool as well. And to be able to engage and interact with other cultures and other economies and other people, that gives you a wider perspective.
Mhm.
And not everyone has to be in the military, but again, just one, you need to get more stamps in your passport, folks. So I'm gonna put that call to action out there for y'all right now.
Yeah.
So you understand that we are a global society, and by having these tools to reach someone across the planet at any time on Substack, on YouTube,
Mm.
on whatever the case may be, not everyone speaks English. You need to now start talking about transcribing into different languages, right? So when you start going global, you start having a wider reach and you start having different mindset and you start having different ideas and you start really knocking down some of those walls that we have perceived across everybody, right?
Mhm.
When you start being open to at least hearing and having constructive conversation, constructive debate, then we start being able to learn how to collaboratively work with each other.
Mm.
So having a global mindset really early on, you don't have to have it at the beginning because when you're throwing spaghetti against the wall, but as you start maturing and you start thinking about who am I trying to reach, who do I want to reach, where's the community, where are the folks that I want to talk to, having a global mindset really matters because again, you start getting those different perspectives and you start understanding how other folks operate and you see where there's some synergies and how can that be mixed into your sessions, your dialogue, your services, and your wares and things like that. So it matters. It matters to not think just with blinders on. It matters to think that there's more folks than just that are in your 916 area code. It matters to just to really be aware that as soon as you put something out there on the internet, something on Substack Live, anyone can look at this
Mhm.
anywhere on this planet. So are we meeting them? Are we talking above them? Are we talking below them? Or are we talking to them instead of at them?
Yeah.
That matters.
That's so good. And it's a simple it's even a simple switch in our language, right? Because I think and Corey can relate to this. I think all of us came to have podcasts, right? So you would often hear people say, initially, I think people have started to change. They said, well, just follow me on Apple, right?
Mhm.
Follow my
Mhm.
podcast on Apple, right? And it's like, oh no, right? When I was doing some training and stuff like that back in the day, and I was like, oh, don't do that. Like you need a website, you need your own space. Here's why, right? Because as in the States, yes, we're probably 70% Apple and then rest Android. But guess what? The rest of the world flip that around.
Yep.
It's about 70% Android, 30% Apple,
Yeah.
right? So you cut your nose to spite your face when you say little things to sort of cut other people off from an access standpoint, right? Because of your lack of awareness, right? And that's just a lack of awareness. But nowadays we understand that. Corey, did you have something to share? You want me to get to this question?
Because I have to mute my stuff now. I want to talk about globalization because I mean, first of all, why would you do anything if you're not trying to take over the world? That's how I look at it. But,
Say that one more
Peaky in
time.
the brain.
All
It's
right.
yeah, like
that's a
that's me.
peaky in the brain mentality. I grew up with that. What are you gonna do tonight, brain? Everything I
Yeah,
do.
maybe it's the 80s. Maybe it
We're
was
gonna take over
maybe
the
it's being,
world, boy.
yeah, maybe it's being a product of the 80s and 90s. I don't know, but for me it was a little. So for me it was a little. I don't want to say selfish, but because I have a very targeted niche of people I'm concentrating on, the whole purpose of why I even started the community on Facebook was I saw when they like the Podcast Academy was being created, and
Mhm.
my biggest thing was being a history buff and everything was like, here's an opportunity for Black people to get into a new medium that's in the early stage where
Yeah.
our generation, we really didn't have that. But being in the hip hop industry and stuff and seeing how hip hop transcended over the past 30, 40 years and turned into what the global phenomenon is now.
Mhm.
I was like, we have opportunity here to not what we continually do, be a part of growing something, but then begging for, scraps at the table. We have opportunity now to build our own table, within this industry and bring the people to us. That's what hip hop taught me growing up,
Mhm.
right? So for me, it was almost like my initial attitude about globalization was like the self, what's the word? just trying to survive in something that's about to take off, right? Making sure we just have a spot in it. And as I saw companies, and then you starting to see, when the doomsayers news of like it's podcasting's leveling out in America, and then I'm like, okay, these companies are going to start targeting places like Africa. We saw them targeting India. We started seeing them targeting on a more global scale. And I remember my first editor that I ever worked with, he was in Latin America, and he was dying out there. He was like, man, I can't get no business. I'm trying to get into podcast editing. And I was like, bro, just hold on, it's coming. And now I can't even get in touch with him, but he's so busy with stuff, so because it's blowing up. But I knew it was coming, and I was like, how do we secure our position? And not only that, but how do we make sure we're prepared for it? And that's why the community started. Was like, we need a space to do that. Now, over the years, it went from that point of view to now I'm like, we're a community of, when we're ambassadors to the podcast industry now. Like like you said, I changed my language. But the other part of the globalization part for me was, like, we have our brothers and sisters in Canada. They're like, yo, you guys ignore us. And I'm like, okay, I have an opportunity here to bring everybody together. And for us as Black people in the diaspora, it was, for me, I looked at it like, this is a space where we could actually come together and heal and get rid of all those negative stereotypes that kind of, growing up I grew up in Queens, the most diverse place in the world, right? Over 80,000 languages or something like that spoken here, right? So I like to travel, but I don't have to travel the world. The world's right here at my fingertips. I'll just go to another neighborhood. But long story
go
short,
to another borough, right?
I don't even have to leave the borough, bro.
Walk down the street.
Brooklyn is more like isolated, but Queens, I got to throw shots at you, Steve. But but long story short, I was like, this is an opportunity for like our brothers and sisters in Africa to actually connect here, because that's always been a thing, especially growing up in New York. I've heard that, like, it's the Black versus Africans and the Black versus Haitians and all, and even the Latino side of it. And I'm like, here's an opportunity to create a community where we can come together and use podcasting to help hopefully heal some of these wounds. So that was the reason why I looked at globalization. Plus, I want to make sure our brothers and sisters are protected from these corporate, these people that are targeting them simply because they're just trying to get money from them.
That's so good. That's so good. And I'm Kay Wilkes. We're gonna get to your question right now. I just had one thing to say to what Corey said, and I think this: if you are thinking about starting a community, hopefully there's one thing a through line that you're hearing is that Corey said something about like securing your position, right? Securing your position in whatever industry or idea that you may have. I think that's a super important point, that a community will help you secure that position or that conversation that you want to start that's actually not being started. It's very similar to how podcasting started, I think. Right? Podcasting started out of the idea that people they couldn't hear what they wanted to, right? The conversations were being had. So guess what? They created a podcast, right? And so I think the same thing from a community standpoint. People aren't hearing what they want to hear from work. They're not hearing from their family. They're not hearing from their friends. So guess what? I'm going to start this conversation myself, right? So think about securing your position with your idea and with the problem that you want to solve. So I'm going to do this question here for the panel. It says, I'm interested to hear your thoughts on how people are building on other platforms outside of Meta. Many of us rely on Facebook, IG, but strongly considering other platforms given the current landscape. I'm gonna, and I know I usually start with Tiny, but I got to start with James on this one, because James has been preaching something for years about building on. I'm gonna let James say his phrase, so I'm not gonna take any thunder. So James, go take this question away, sir.
I would much rather have a mortgage than to build a property on rented land. Right. So I'm all about ownership, and you don't own anything. I'm an investor in Meta, so I have stock in Meta. I have said many times that I am not a Zuckerberg fan, though. Right. So I just am just the way that the man operates. I used to be an investor in Twitter. I will always call it Twitter. I'll never call it X. But I'm no longer. And just the direction, the leadership, right? I have morals as well. So I mean, I have a balance sheet of debits and credits view when I look at investment and and if I want to put my dollars and cents into some organizations, then it has to pass that snuff test. So again, we talk about all these different platforms. The platform doesn't matter. Who cares about the platform? But as long as you're building something and you have some ownership of it, you own that email list, you own those addresses, you
Yeah.
own that conversation, because at any day and time, one of those other platforms that, yes, may have every other person on the planet on it, can change their dynamics, their algorithm, and say, oh, we're only going to keep videos on this platform for 30 days now. That's a huge hit to a lot of people who have built their businesses on Meta platforms. Y'all know this, right? Facebook is now only going to keep videos on their platform for 30 days. So if that's the only place where you're building your business, your content strategy, you're in trouble. True, we don't own YouTube. However, digitalcollective.media, jameshicks.com, jameshicks.org, those platforms I own, and I have all of the content that I've ever created over the last X number of years stored locally in multiple locations. So I have it in all these locations that I own. Should YouTube go down? Should what's the other one? Whatever. Should any of them go down? Should the TikToks of the world get banned in the United States? Shouts out to TikTok. I'm doing well on TikTok, selling merch and everything. I love TikTok. Should that get banned in this country, it's going to be like, okay, that was bad. However, I can direct people back over to properties that I own. I can update on the email list. Hey, we're no longer offering promos and deals over on this platform. We're all over here. You gotta own your message, and you can't be driven by other entities external to who you are and what you're trying to do, because their goal and their mission is completely different than what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on my community, on my inner circle, and we want to do this. X, Meta, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever the kids are using, that changes every single week. And there's no way in the world I'm trying to boil the ocean and follow that. I'm gonna stay right where I know I'm comfortable. I'm gonna stay right where I know I'm good, and right where my community wants me to be. I own those properties, and that's where I focus all of my energies at.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good question. That's a good answer, sir. That's a good answer. Tanya, did you have anything you wanted to add on to that?
I think everything that James said is like just ditto. How about that?
There you
Ditto. I
go.
would
Ditto.
only add this. I would add this. I would say that as you're creating content, you want to make it something that can cross platforms.
Yeah. Mm.
So
Yeah.
when we talk about, because what I'm using these days is that term platform proof, right?
Yeah.
When I'm creating content, I'm creating it with the fact that my audience and my home base come first, just like you said, Hicks. The platform is second or third or somewhere down the line. And this includes Substack. I know a lot of people were talking about, and I've seen some of the comments flying through about Substack being much better because, right? But at the same time, understand that this is still rented space.
Yeah.
So you need to own a home base. You need to have a website. You need to have a community that is built in a space that you control. You need to have an email list that you're building. Whatever you're creating, create it such that it can be platform independent. It can go wherever you go.
Yeah.
You can take it with you. So people wouldn't be so heartbroken about Facebook turning off that whole live stream 30 days thing.
People up in arms right now, boy.
They are up in arms, but
Yeah.
we need to realize that we should have been owning our content all along. And that's pretty much what I said after that announcement came out. I said, look, if you've been following me for a minute, you know I've been telling you you need to first of all have your own content on your own space. But then secondly, YouTube is better because of the fact that it's got the search engine capabilities, and the focus of YouTube is video. Facebook, they're changing their identity every other day. So absolutely, I would just add that the connection that you have to your content needs to be something that is it needs to be real.
Yeah.
Your content is your content. Everything else comes next, comes after the fact. Your audience, own your audience, have a home base, all of those things. So yeah, totally agree with what he said.
That's good. That's good.
Own your
Let's-
masters.
Yeah, own you.
Can I add something?
Yeah, yeah,
Can I,
yeah.
Steve? Can I? There's
No,
a
go ahead.
component missing from
Go ahead.
this part of the platform
Go ahead.
conversation, and I'm me being a web dev. I'm extremely with James on that. You know, you're supposed to back up and have backups and backups in different platforms. And we learned. I remember Steve. Why I even moved to a paid, to a new platform off of Facebook was because when Facebook had that blackout that time, we had a live stream scheduled that day. And I panicked, and not listening to Rob Dunwood when he was like, "You need to have an email list." All these things. That was the date I realized I got to have my email list. Because I had no way to communicate people in the group to let them know the live was still
Yeah.
happening,
Yes.
all that stuff. So I panicked, and I was like, I don't like being in those positions. But the other component about platform, we always think about the digital space and not realizing that community is also the interaction, the human interaction.
Yes.
And, Steve, you came to one of our events like 2 years ago, and you got to experience our summer social, and you got to see what the actual thing. And that's always been something I've always wanted to do in my communities. Even though we're digitally based, my goal has always been, and we've talked about this as well, is
Yeah,
setting up
yeah.
chapters in cities and places where people can actually come together and interact, as well as use these digital tools. Because at the end of the day, we're human beings, and we still crave and we still need the social interaction amongst. COVID proved that.
Mhm.
Despite everything moving to the digital space, we still crave that human interaction. And
Yeah.
it's important to actually include that into it, so that if your platform should fail, now, granted, if you got 1 million followers, you should be trying to plan on some like big, global,
Yeah.
right? Like some
Yeah.
big like tour or something anyway. But that's a whole nother conversation. But at the end of the day, you should try to figure out some way where you can also connect with people outside of the digital space.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when I interact with people, when I'm at events and stuff, my membership goes up.
Mhm.
People join simply because of other members, or simply because of the interaction with me. So I think that's also an important part of the platform talk. And I think on the other part I want to say is, you having a home base, you control the most important part, which is your data,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
traffic,
Yeah.
the traffic.
The traffic. Yeah.
That's why I always tell Pocket, you got to have a website, not a website on Pod Pages, not a website on any of those platforms. You got to have your own website,
Yep.
so that you can drive people there, so you can get the data, and then you can get the demographic, psychographic stuff you need to pitch to sponsors and stuff. You control that data.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to Substack, it's going to TikTok, it's going to those platforms.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, man, there's so many areas or ways I want to go with this conversation. I'm not going to go deep into the ideas around AI, but I do want to talk about it, and I'm just going to make mention of it in the context of what we're talking about, the human interaction, because AI is so prevalent now when people are creating content or the distribution of that content. The human interaction is going to become even more important, right? So if someone goes to my my newsletter and they read one of the articles, I hope that they're sensing the same feeling of me in person or live that they're sensing from the actual article that they're actually reading.
Mhm.
And I think that's the part that we want to make sure and hope people understand too. Your community is should be part of bridging that divide from what you see in a digital space to the actual human connection, right? So think about your community, as that space to validate, that one, you're human, and that two, your message is real, and what it is that you actually have to say and what you're purporting is actually of value. So making sure we understand that. One thing that go ahead, James. Absolutely.
I wanted you to finish that thought, but I wanted to go
No, go ahead.
back to what Corey was saying. I want to challenge him on something that he mentioned about, is the conversation too big about us going and doing road shows, or each of us individually going out and doing road shows, whatever the case may be. COVID, when it shut down the planet, stopped everything in its tracks. And everyone was working from home. Everyone was doing Zooms, and we all got tired of it and all that. But we need to be back. We need to go back to having meetups. There used to be a website I don't know if it's even still alive or existing on meetup.com, right? where
Yeah, it's
where
still
you
there.
actually have
It's there.
local chapters,
Mhm.
local groups and meetings in your community about specific topics.
Mhm.
We need to get back to that point, and we need to be the champions and leaders that actually help folks get out of that comfort zone of only staying in their living room, staying in their house behind
Yeah.
a Zoom
Yeah.
camera, and going out and interacting, going around the conference table, going around and writing on a whiteboard, going around and actually putting hands on some. We need to go back to those in-person sessions, because we can't always go to the big conferences. We can't always go to the NABs and the CESs and the
Yeah.
podcast movements
Mhm.
all the time. Those can get expensive and those get
Yeah.
pricey. But why not do something in your local neighborhood, your local
Mhm.
community? Because I know that there's someone in your city, your state, your town that's interested in doing digital podcasting, digital consulting, sharing of data, doing that thing. And if you can get 5, 10, 20 people in the same room and just have that conversation, face-to-face conversation, there's more value in that than 10,000 subs on your channel. There's more value, and for me, again, maybe I'm speaking for myself, than having those face-to-face, in-person conversations with folks and helping someone get 2 steps ahead of where they are right now, helping someone mature in their journey.
Mhm.
Face to face, those conversations. We need to be the champions that actually go out and start instigating that more. So and it's not too big for us to think that like that.
Right.
Having regional road shows, having national road shows, whatever. Black Podcasters Network, Black Podcasters Association should be, yes, in New York, should be in Texas, should be in California, should be in Chicago, all those places. And we need to just start talking about it and make it happen. So
Yeah.
that was on my heart. I wanted to say that. I didn't mean
And
to
it's a good
derail, but
opportunity.
That's good.
let's not
And it's a
wait.
good opportunity to create collaborative efforts with other
Yeah,
content
yeah,
creators, and
yeah,
100%.
so that you're not shouldering the whole, the workload of it all. Like,
yeah.
you can
Yeah.
bring, if you got a group of people, just bring them together and say, hey, we're going to do a meetup together, or we're going to do a tour, or we're going to, we'll figure something out.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's also a great collaborative to reach other audiences and get the crossover.
Yeah.
No, agreed. And so I do want to give people some, I know we're at an hour right now, and I do want to give just a little piece of like practical perspective in 2 points, right? Because people are thinking about starting a community. And even though we've been talking about, being sort of platform agnostic, right? But, there are different community platforms that are out there. And I don't want to talk about all the platforms. What
Mhm.
I would like you guys to talk about is like, why did you particularly choose your platform? Right? Because I think all of us have tried probably like 3 or 4 different platforms,
Yeah.
right? And right, we've all Tanya, you probably try like 10. Every
Yeah.
time I see Tanya going live, I'm like, I'm just trying this new platform out. I'm just trying this one out. I'm trying this one out. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on for a second. Let me say, I got 2 platforms going in
Yeah.
one stream, right? She's always she's always
And yeah, they're
trying
trying to
to.
break the internet,
Yeah,
boy.
you know what I'm
Love
saying? I got like 5 going at one time. No, but I really want to know because Corey already knows my answer. He and we've sort of mirrored each other with sort of this. Well, actually, I've sort of followed his suit because he was way before me with the community
Whoa,
piece.
Steve's giving me credit. Whoa.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
shoot.
yeah. We're gonna cut that part out. We're gonna cut that part out. Tanya, you want to talk a little bit about sort of your thoughts around maybe 1 or 2 things that
Mhm.
sold you, if you will, that are like really important to you about your platform. There we go. That's the question. That's the question I want to get. Like 1 or 2 things that are important to you about the platform that you use, so that way other people can think about it as well.
So first, I've got to address the whole elephant in the room about me trying all these different platforms. The reason why I do is because I want to be able to speak intelligently when people come to me and ask me about apps.
100%.
Good thing. That's a good thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go.
So I don't try them without purpose.
Agreed.
I will say the one that I am basically that I built my community in and I've used for the past several years has actually been Heartbeat Chat.
Mhm.
Now,
That's shares.
Very recently, we've started moving into Go High Level. And the main reason for that is because Go High Level has a lot of my other workflows and automations and my mini courses and things that I do. So it's giving people a centralized space. So the main features that I'm looking for whenever I do have a community to house will be, first of all, the ownership that we've been talking about. Like, I own my data, I can see my metrics, I can see what's going on, and I control that space. The second thing for me is to make sure that people have access to the events calendar. There needs to be an easy way for people to be able to be reminded and to be aware of what's going on so that they always feel connected. The third thing is to be able to have access to each other because it's not just about me,
Mm.
as we've talked about as well. It's about us having interconnectivity and people being able to support each other, encourage each other, get connected. And so having those features is really priority for me. Heartbeat has been an excellent space because it's allowed for automation and workflows, meaning that on a light level, it can do things such as sending an email sequence right within the app. It can house my videos. There's a whole bunch of different things it can do. You told me to stick to 2 or 3, so sorry.
That's okay. It's all right.
But I'm just saying, any of the spaces that I use are going to need to meet certain requirements. And both of those do meet that. But again, the reason for Go High Level at the moment is that I see the ability for me to be able to really navigate a systematic way to move people throughout my sales process and into that community space so they have one space to sign into and they're able to, go to different courses and other learning opportunities they can access from right in that same area.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. James?
I'm all about eliminating steps in the workflow, right? I'm gonna be selfish, right? I need to make my life easy as well for managing all of these different prongs
yes.
of what's going on. So that's key as well. That's just like we were talking about owning process and owning platforms and owning environments, but I also like to eliminate steps within the workflow on the admin side.
Mhm.
So that's key for me. And another one is people pay attention to what they pay for.
Mm.
Right. So, um, and that matters as well. So I'm not going to. I love supporting startups, early startups. I also love supporting minority owned and minority funded organizations as well. So I saw someone shout out Group App.
Yeah.
All of us on this call, we know Don
Yep.
Gordy, right? We've all been on a call with them. We know, and that's a good thing.
Yes.
That being said, some of the early stage seed round types of organizations,
Mm.
I'll evaluate, I'll either advocate for, I'll do some beta testing for, but I can't entrust the crown jewels. I can't entrust the entire community, the entire environment into some of these early stage ones until that organization is profitable.
Sessions.
I was just.
I'm sorry.
I was going to bring that up.
I'm sorry. I'm
Right?
sorry.
So
my
get
bad. My bad.
There it is right there.
Why?
So I didn't mess around and open up the floodgates, but
I'm sorry.
there's a perfect example right there. Right, we would go in and we would do all the testing, we would check them out, we would help you figure out the bugs, but man, there was no way in the world that I was going to put everybody over in sessions and turn everything over to them. Come to find out, 3-4 months later, hey y'all, we done ran out of money.
Yeah.
And that was the email, right? I mean, Tanya,
It was the email.
I was on the call. I was on a video call with him when he was. I apologize. We're not trying to derail the conversation, but this is a really
this
good
is the
point.
conversation,
It's
right?
important. Yeah, it's
this
important.
is a good point around startups. And I was on a call with the founder. And Corey, were you on the call with me too?
Yeah, we was on that. And we was on that.
Yeah, and I literally told him in the chat. I said, I think you need to step down, and I think you need to find somebody who actually understands like this part of the growth process,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
I literally, of course, he didn't read my comment, so I said it again because I actually, because I actually liked the platform, wanted it
Yeah.
to survive.
It was
And I
dope.
was like, no, no, seriously, I guess you didn't hear me, but you need to step down
Yeah.
and let someone else come and take over this platform who understands how to grow something, right? Who has who has a relationship with investors that can actually bring more money into this
Right.
process. So yes, you have to be very careful on the actual platform that you use, because I'm really suspect a little gun shy when
Yeah,
it comes to
we hesitant now,
certain
right? And
yeah.
especially and we're very early adopters of new technology, because
Yes.
that's what we are. We're technologists. On my
That's what we
business card,
do.
it says engineering technologist. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm living on the bleeding edge. But again, I can't entrust the entire community, can't entrust all of the crown jewels, but I will do some beta testing and things of that nature. But
Yeah.
you asked what platforms I'm utilizing now. I still really like what Group App is doing. They got a couple of things that they need to add to the platform before I can
Mm,
completely flip that switch. Um, I have committed to the CEO of Mighty's to maintain a lot of activity there. So I
mm,
all transparency, I know Gina pretty well. So a lot of the activity that I'm doing is with Mighty,
mhm,
and that's where my focus is. And I want to stay locked in and stay focused. So again, I'm not too scatterbrained. But
Yeah.
just like Tanya says, I'm looking at Heartbeat. I'm looking at Circle. I'm looking at
mm,
all of the other ones, so I'm aware when someone books a consultancy fee time with me to say what platform should I use.
Right.
I ask the qualifying questions, and I've got some insight. I
Mm-hmm.
already know something about these tools, these platforms, these hardware and services that I can say, go take a look at these three, see which
Mm-hmm.
one resonates with you, and I have some background and some insight on them. So we have to do that. We're in the minority though. We have to
mm,
do that kind of thing. But yeah, man, it's don't rely on the platform to do everything for you.
Yes.
If it can meet your needs today and in the short term, just go with it, because you're not going to find that end all to be all, because I can guarantee you in the midterm and the long term your business is going to grow, or it's going to
yeah,
scale, or it's going to pivot. Something's going to be different than what it is that you're doing today and in the short term, and only
Mm-hmm.
you can answer that short term time frame. That could be a week, that could be a month, that could be 3 months.
Yeah.
And if you mess around and try to do something, find something that meets all of your needs and everything you want it to be in the future, you're never gonna get started.
mm.
Yeah.
You got
You
to get
just gonna sit there
Right.
and you're gonna be a grumpy old person sitting on your lawn,
yeah,
talking
yeah,
about I wish I had, I should have
upset,
done.
yeah,
Yep.
upset and joining everybody else's community, and you could have started your own.
That's right.
So,
You could have been out here blowing up. You could have been going around the
mm,
country doing meetups with me and Corey.
yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Corey, go ahead. How did you transition? Because we talked about this at the very beginning, right? How did you transition from? I think a lot of people, currently probably still have their groups on Facebook, and what was your impetus for going from that? And I know you had the issue with the live stream, but then you tested out a couple of different platforms, and now you've landed on a very similar one. Of course, the same one that I actually use. So I'll let you go ahead and talk about that.
So for me, I mean, I was never a big fan of Facebook groups. So it was always in the back of my mind. It was like I wanted to monetize, and there's ways to do it on Facebook, but I wanted something a simpler process.
Yeah.
I will say that my experience in getting my degree in web development, it's always about the user experience. So I was always thinking
Yeah.
about how many steps can I remove from this process, and you know you're subject to whatever Facebook decides, and we've seen Facebook changes the groups up like crazy. Like now you
Yeah.
can't even have third party access anymore, and all these other
Yeah.
things, and
Yes.
it just like destroyed a lot of the workflow. But I decided to. I wanted to, like James. I need a central location. It's really just me running a lot of things. So it's like I need a space
Mm,
where I can just concentrate on one area. And we originally started with Mighty Networks. Shout out to Talib Jasir at Afro's Audio. But what got me from Facebook to a paid private community was I had a conversation with this Danielle Desir Corbett, because she did that with Women of Color podcasters community.
mm,
She shut down her Facebook group, and she gave me a lot of insight on why it was beneficial. We moved to Mighty Networks, and not to disparage Mighty Networks or anything, but it was a little confusing on how to set things up on there for the things that I wanted to do. And the biggest complaint I was getting, and something that you got to consider when you're choosing these platforms, is the experience of your users.
Yeah.
Now, I personally
Yes.
felt that the experience from their desktop to the app, they did that very well, like,
Yeah.
to me. But a lot of people were struggling with it.
Mhm.
And that was one of the complaints was, oh, this is too confusing. I'm not using this because it's confusing. And that's when we met with Group App, and I was looking at it, I was like, you know what? It may not be the most aesthetically pleasing thing, but it's simple. And it kind of gave me that old school Facebook work, experience. And I was like, you know what? This is something people already know. They're used to it. It's almost intuitive to them.
Mhm.
So that was kind of one of the selling points for me with them. But I was like, maybe we just need something a little bit more simpler for our members to use
Yeah.
Mhm.
than some of these, because a lot of these community apps, they have a lot of bells and whistles and stuff. And I always tell people, you got to know why you're doing this and what you want to do before you pick
Yes.
the platform,
Yep.
Yes.
because it's
Yeah.
not
Yep.
every
Yeah.
platform is for what you're trying to do.
That's
100%.
I was just looking at high level. I was like, oh, this looks good. And I'm like, but is this really for what my community, and Tanya might need to sit down with you and have a walkthrough on it. But I'm just like, and then you get into, like what James said, you get into this purgatory of decision making, and it's like, you
Mhm.
just got to sometimes just choose one, see how it works, get your feedback from your community, and then if it's working, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
That's right.
One reason I like Group App very well is because they're actually listening to the members of,
Yes.
they
Yeah.
in the development cycle. If you ask for a feature, they might question you on it, but if you make a good enough argument, or if enough people are saying, yeah, I need this, they've been very responsive. And for me, that was important. That was a bad experience I had with Mighty Networks. I
Mhm.
kept asking the same question over and over again, and I was not getting a clear answer. And that
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, we're paying you money. We were building a community on here. I didn't want to leave the platform, but you're not answering this important question for me.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's just telling me you guys might not know what you're doing over there in regards to that. Or,
Mhm.
it's a whole lot of technical stuff I was thinking about, but I'm just like, you got to figure out what's the need of your community,
Yeah.
because you want them to come back and engage. If it's too difficult for them, they're going to shut down and move on to something else.
Mhm.
Yeah. Agreed.
And
And
I think, can I add
go ahead. Go ahead.
this?
No, go
I
100%. Go
think
ahead.
one of the things that's really, really important is, all of us have said this. We are exploring to ensure that the user experience for our communities, which are going to be individual, unique, all of those things, because you asked that question earlier, Steve,
Mhm.
about how different each of us had created our audiences, right? And so you have to examine, who is my audience,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and how technology capable am I to be able to set this thing up and manage it in such a way that I make the experience pleasurable for the people on the other end.
Yeah.
So I don't think Go High Level is for everybody, because there's a lot that goes on in setting that up, along with all the other workflows and automations and landing pages. It's a whole lot. So if you're not technically sound, if that ain't something you want to be doing, that's not for you. I think Heartbeat has a lot of options and features, but it still can be a bit convoluted and complicated for people to access things. I agree. I have a lifetime access to Group App. I think that Group App, in its simplicity, could be useful and accessible to a lot of folks. And it's easy to set up if you take the time to do so.
Mhm.
Mm.
So I do think, I mean, I know you're right. I know about 50 different platforms, including Mighty Networks. I do. And I know them like the back of my hand, because, to what Hicks said earlier, when somebody comes and they ask me, well, what should I use? We need to be able to speak intelligently about, as consultants, about what makes the most sense for that individual person. So I like that we are all sharing different platforms that could be useful for different people. But anybody listening or watching, know that just because we said it doesn't mean that one is the right one for you.
100%.
You do need to experiment and do trials and see, what does my audience want? How do they like to learn? And how can I give it to them through this space?
100%. And follow Tanya, because I'm joking with her earlier, but I do, when I was trying to look for different apps, I think I was looking at you were testing Heartbeat, you were
Mhm.
testing a couple other ones. So yeah, I'm busting your chops, but I follow you. I'm like, hold on for a second. When I was trying to figure out moving from Mighty Networks to something else. So yeah, I use Group App, and for me, what happened was, timing.
Mm.
Timing of where I was in my journey of growing my business. And one of the main reasons why I love Group App is because I honestly felt that they were growing with me
Mm.
in my journey as a business, as an entrepreneur. The other part was that their messaging was around a learning community, which is exactly what I was wanted to build. I didn't want. I wanted a learning community. I wanted some places where people can come get information to learn and grow. And I know you know that may seem simple, right? Because it's just messaging. But I think everything that I've read with Group App at that point in time about 2 years ago, and then being able to get on the call with the founder and hearing his vision, and also once again as I'm growing, I don't know what some of my needs were initially, but then as I was growing, I said, "Hey, I need this." Then James and I, we jump on a call with him. Corey, we jump on a call with him. And he's like, "Okay, that's great, but why?" And this is why. He's like, "Okay, that makes sense." And then
Mhm.
2-3 weeks, maybe a month later, we're actually getting that feature. And so part for me was timing, because I feel like I got in on the right time, where they're going to be growing and they're going to get bigger. But I think this is another part that translates to your own community as you grow and scale. How do you still feel small? Does that make sense? Right?
Yes.
Because you're gonna grow, right? That's the
Mhm.
idea. You want it to grow, but you still want to make sure that your team and that your members still feel like it's small and it's intimate. And that's tough. It's tough to do that. And so I think that's a little nugget that you want to think about. I got one last question. I know it's 1:20, but I know that people are thinking about this one, and this is going to probably not cause some controversy because I think we all have our own perspective on this one. Free versus paid
Mm.
communities. Because as you are thinking about your community, the problem that you're solving, how you're going to set it up, your platform, your messaging, all of those things, I think it's important for you to think about how are you going to, if you want to monetize or if you want this thing to be free. And I know everybody's going to say, hey, it all depends. I know James will say it depends, right? I know we're going to start with that. I don't want that. I don't want that. I want the unfiltered perspective on your thoughts around free versus paid. And I know I'm going to talk, and Tanya, I know you got some amazing saying, but I'm going to talk to the most opinionated person first, and that's going to be Corey. So
Corey.
let Corey go
I
first.
knew it was coming. You're so predictable, Steve. I knew it was- I don't like free, but we have free.
Mhm.
James said it earlier. People care about what they pay for.
Yeah.
And we started originally with just as a paid community. We didn't have a free tier. And it was always a debate. It was always a back and forth thing for me. But again, sometimes when you're running a community, it's not about you. It's about what the overall mission of the community is. And you know, I'm very opinionated, and I know. See, Steve, you put.
See?
Oh man, I know funnels exist and they're necessary and stuff, but I'm the some stuff. I didn't want to seem scammy. I didn't want to seem. I didn't want us to. I didn't want because I'm trying to create like a turn us into a global like trade organization. I didn't want it to be something that's like um just getting sales, right? It's more
Yeah.
I think for me too, it's also I want a particular person in my community. I want people who are engaged. I want people who are dead serious about their podcasting journey.
Come on.
I don't need tire kickers, which is what you get on Facebook. And I learned that from being on Facebook. That's why I don't like free. Because you get a lot of people that want to waste time and they want to, it's the one of my biggest pet peeves. See, now the opinions are coming out.
That's okay.
One of
That's
my
what I
biggest
want.
pet peeves is that 5 years later, I still see the same questions happening in Facebook groups that I saw 5 years ago when we started to try to solve that problem. And I get it. And I'm not saying these are new people. These are people still asking the same questions. Cause I'll be watching.
Mhm.
But I also learn in having conversations with people in the industry for what we're doing at the BPA that we need the numbers. That's the important part for me and some of the conversations that I'm having and some of the things, because we also do advocacy. Like that's also part of what I try to do is advocacy behind the scenes in these positions that I'm starting to get in, become a part of. And when you have people telling you, "Yeah, Corey, you just got to get the numbers. The numbers is what's going to get you the attention that you need to be able to do so." That's why we added the free tier. So I'm more paid because these things take time. They cost money. And if you want us to bring these tools, you want us to bring these services, you want us to be able to really create create a community that's self-sustaining. It requires finance. I got to be able to hire people to help to take on that. One of my biggest pet peeves is I want to pay people who do workshops with us. I want us to, because that's a big thing. That was something I didn't like in the music industry. It's something I see in the podcast industry. These people do these big seminars and stuff, and you don't get it as a speaker. You don't get much. You get a free ticket and I'm like, bro, like I'm not
You
even
get
a big conference
exposure.
person. Oh yeah, like that's the whole thing. You get exposed. Yo, let me get a beat for free, and I'll give you exposure. That's what I see in the music industry, right? I'm seeing that here, and I'm just like, bro, like, but my main thing is people value what they pay for. So and I prioritize my members for that, because the people who pay are sustaining the community. And the free tier attracts, for me personally, the wrong type of people that I want in the community. Not saying that the people that are on our current free tier aren't, because I'm also learning as I'm doing this that these people are engaged and they're really serious about what they want to do. So it's just now I just got to figure out why you're not paying, or where's the value, add for those people. But I'm not a big fan of free of anything. You get what you pay for when you do free.
Yeah, Corey and I we were literally just talking about this like the other day about free and what do you offer, versus paid and things along that line. And I know those are some questions that people probably
and those heavily opinionated conversations.
very, very much so. Yes, I would not. Our conversations are not for the faint of heart. I'll put it to you that way. You have to have very thick skin for our conversation. Tanya, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm very opinionated on this.
I know you are. Go for it. Go for it.
Okay, so a couple of things. First of all, let me go ahead and in full disclosure and say that my bachelor's degree, even though my master's is in business, my bachelor's degree was in psychology. And so understanding the psychology of someone simply paying, even if it's $7, you teach people how to treat you. You train people how to treat you by establishing certain boundaries. And so I too have trouble with free. And it's for a couple of different reasons. One, from an experience standpoint, I used to offer this free 5-day challenge. Let me just tell y'all this real quick story. It's free 5-day challenge. This thing was chock full of value. Like I was teaching my behind off. Y'all, I was delivering, and it was in hopes that somebody at the end might want to invest in my services or other programs. And one day this woman, and I know it was wisdom that was just planted, she came to me because I had moved from free to making the challenge paid, and I had made this announcement. And so it was months later, right? And this woman said, "You know what? I'm joining now because I thought when it was free that it really wasn't that good. It must not be that valuable." So sometimes we're assuming that we are doing the right thing by not charging, but what we're really doing is we're sending people a message that it's not of value when it really is. And so I do struggle. I used to have a free Facebook group just like everybody, right? And that free Facebook group had numbers and it was growing, but it was a whole lot of work to try to push people and push people and push people, and they just weren't moving, they weren't budging. And I made a decision when I shut that thing down that I was not going to continue to try to help people to realize the value of what I was sharing. I wanted to work with people who already knew. Like I know I want to do video. I don't know how, and she's my person.
Yeah.
And so I do believe that there is value and benefit in free for some people if what you're trying to do is to drive numbers and to get numbers, and for certain areas and niches, that's possibly a good move for you. For me, it's not it. So I don't put the energy into free communities anymore. I put the energy into the people who have already determined this is where I want to be. They know what their offer is, they know who they are. They just need the support and the encouragement and the systems to be able to really make that thing scale.
That's
And
good.
if that means smaller communities, I'm okay with that. Because remember, we talked about vanity versus value,
Mm.
and I can't practice what I preach if I'm doing vanity.
Mm.
So that's where I am on it.
That's a T-shirt right there, James. Don't take it.
That's
Don't
a sermon right there, Lord.
don't go.
Somebody better pass the offering plate, because that's the message right there.
Don't
boy.
go make a T-shirt. James is quick to make a T-shirt with
He
stuff.
is.
See, I'm wearing
Vanity
listen, we gonna-
versus value. Next thing you know, it's gonna be up in like 6 in like
I'm
one
gonna have it
time
in
at
all
2
colors
o'clock.
too, all colorways.
And he's gonna wear it. He's gonna be wearing it by 6 o'clock tonight. That's how quickly
Yeah.
James.
Nothing about that
I want
imported
one. You
wool
just
too.
need to send me one if you make it.
Oh, you gonna get one.
I already feel like I mean, Jen's, I'm gonna let you answer, but I know we got to do a part 2 of this, because I'm thinking around, because I think around content, and because that's a whole nother topic, and I think that's what we're gonna talk about. Like we'll do a part 2 of this, and we'll be talking about the content that we need to create, for our communities, because I think that's an important message to have as well. So James, go ahead and your thoughts.
Yeah. Listen, I'm bottled up right now because so part 2 be a premium offering.
Mm.
Right. Our most valuable asset is our time.
Yeah.
Right. Our most valuable asset, and we will not get the time back. And if you want access to real specific information, instead of paying for foolishness all the time, okay, listen, Black folk. We will pay for all this trifling stuff. We will pay for all this other stuff. But when you got a subject matter expert, when you got a trusted advisor, when you got someone who knows what they're talking, this isn't being cocky. This is being confident.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
When you got someone who knows that they can help you get to that next level, and you're not willing to compensate them for that time, energy, effort, there's a problem there. We're in this. We're here to feed our family. We are business people.
Yeah.
If we just wanted to have fun, go out here and do the thing, hey, everything is free. That's all good too. No shots at anyone that's doing that. But we are business-minded folks building legacy. It costs dollars, it costs cents, it costs time, it costs effort to build the infrastructure. If we were all to turn our cameras and show all of the stuff that we are utilizing, all of the infrastructure pieces, there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in each of our studios alone to do what it is that we do. And then again, there's all of the back end processes, what we use for standard operating procedures, what we do for content curation and creation, all that other stuff. We've done all that stuff. You want to come hang out with us. We want you to come hang out with us too. You need to pay for that. And there's nothing wrong with a business forward centric person asking for revenue.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So free works for certain types of industries, certain types of businesses, even early on, that kind of thing. But once you get that 10% more that you know than the next person, man, if you don't figure out what your rate card looks like and you start charging for that time, you're doing yourself and them. Like Tanya said, you're doing your community a disservice as well. Because there is that mental aspect saying, okay, you just giving this away for free. 5 days of your time that you put all this energy and effort into, you just giving it away. I would pay you for it, but you won't give it away. It's probably just filled with advertisements and all this. But once you make it valuable to the recipient, then it's geared towards a Steve Worthy. This document, this pamphlet, this operating manual was designed for Steve Worthy. Oh, this isn't just a boilerplate type of thing that's for everyone. This is for me. I will pay you. I will gladly pay you for that. I will That's why I don't like any of these free platforms on social media as well. Every time that all these other 4 folks on this call have been on a call with me with some of these startup founders, even with Donna Bore from Bluepath, I've asked them, what is your revenue strategy? How are you going to charge for this?
Yeah.
Because I'll gladly pay for the engineer. We know what the engineering work is that goes behind it. The coding
100%.
work, the
100%.
design, Q&A. Man, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
Let's be realistic. We'll pay for foolishness, but when it comes to value and real services that are helping us get better, and we hesitant to pay the price of a cup of coffee per
Yeah.
month, not per day,
Yeah.
$7.99 a month, or whatever number. I just said $7.99 because I heard someone say that. If you can't find $7.99 a month to pay for real deep insights to help you get better, I don't know who has the problem.
Mhm.
And you're probably not going to invite me to more of these sessions, but there it is. I'm sorry, but
No,
I just
no.
had to be.
And that's come on now. That's exactly because that's what people want to hear. That's what they need to hear. And I think that's the we talk about it on the campus, right? Uh, we don't want anything that's Googleable. That's a word I just made up, right? If you can Google it, we don't want it on the campus, right? It's not a master class for any of our instructors. We think about our content and everything from a narrow and deep standpoint, but not from a shallow and wide standpoint, because you can get that anywhere.
Yep.
You literally can, right there. You can just do a search engine and all of those things, right? You can even Google James Hicks and you'll get information on James.
Well, hold on now.
But guess what?
I'm gonna
No, but
need
here's
you
the
to go
thing.
to the third page of Google, because on the first page is not the cat that you want to be looking for. It's a
Oh, is it
Not
not?
that.
yeah, that ain't me.
Not that, James.
I'm
Not
on.
that,
I think I'm on
James.
page 2 now. But
All right,
listen,
there we go.
the
There we
first
go.
cat is not the dude that you want to be.
Not that guy. Not that guy. Well, they got your picture. They got your
So,
picture.
yeah.
But I think part of what I'm getting at is that you can go to his website and all these other things, but you can't really get the essence of who James is from all of that. So you have a conversation with him. You're on a live stream with them, right? Or you're doing something one-on-one. And I hear what Al's talking about. He said if you're going to charge, your content has to be amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I completely agree with that. Completely agree with that. And that's why I think, like I said, for part 2, you have to think about how do you create content that's worth paying for,
Yeah.
right? But more importantly, that goes back to the conversation around the problem that you're solving, right? The people that you actually want. I love what Corey said. Corey said, "I don't want tire kickers," right? And he's very particular about the group, about the people that you want in your group. And I can't stress that enough. As you start to think about your community, we're gonna close this up. Is that who do you want to have in your group, right? How narrow do you want to make this, right? I made a shift in my business probably about a year and a half ago, where initially from a coaching and training standpoint, I was trying to convince people that they needed coaching.
Right.
Like you need this coaching. This is what you need. This is why it will change your life. Da 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 da. And I made a switch to I started to deal with people who were already doing the work. They had already understood the investment that it takes to have a coach, to have for their team to have training and development. And guess what? That cut out a lot of people, and that was fine with me. But what it did was that it made my offering more narrow and more specific, and even my messaging got better
Yes.
because I wasn't trying to convince anybody. So these are the things that I want you to think about with your community. Everything that everybody said, but are you making sure that you have the right people and that you're attracting the right people into your group as well, into your community? I'm gonna allow everybody to have one final thought, and then we're gonna close this up and let everybody, especially you all, get back to your day, because I know Corey has to go get his hair done and and all of that stuff. He keeps texting me. He keeps texting me. I got a hair appointment. I'm like, dude, you don't have any hair.
Oh boy.
We'll start with Corey. We'll start with Corey. And ladies, we'll let the best go last, which will be Jack. So Corey,
Well, I just want to say thank you to everybody in the comment section. There's a lot of great comments being made and a lot of things being made in the comment section. So we shout out to you guys. So we really appreciate
100%.
that. I think for me, my final thing is when you're building a community, and you've heard me say this, Steve, too, like about podcasting. It's not you're the visionary. This is your vision, but it's not always about you. And one of the things I think what's been successful for BPA is that I just constantly keep my ear to the street of what's going on. I watch conversations. I try to engage with as many members as I possibly can, but realistically, that's a very small window. So now we have to start implementing other means to be able to track where our members are, their needs and stuff. But I think the most important thing when you're creating community is realizing that, and it was something I had to learn the hard way when I first started, was I just thought it was me doing all the things. The success of the community came from me creating a space that allowed the members to take ownership of what was going on in the community. Now, this might not apply for all communities, but for what I was trying to do, I call it member driven content, right? The members, I encourage, Steve hears it all the time. I'm still, shout out to Walt. I'm still waiting for some stuff for some members that said they were going to do some things, or they were going to send me some stuff. But the most important thing is community is ownership. In order for community to work, there has to be some level of ownership from the members of that community that are involved in it. So you have to think about that too when you're deciding, is this what I want to do? How do I keep them engaged? And how do I make them feel like they're part of the process? That's the biggest experience I've learned from this. And the byproduct has been is just seeing all the members coming together, working on projects together. Shout out to Sean. He had his retreat out in Detroit that I missed, unfortunately. But seeing members coming together and flying into towns. We're doing our summer social this year, bigger and better. We have people flying in for that. So it's like that happened because the members of the BPA feel a part of the process. They feel like they want to see this thing survive and exist, and they wanted to see it grow. So the biggest thing I've learned is keep people a part of the process and give them some ownership. That's part of being a leader too. Is you got to give and take.
I love it.
You got to give and take.
I love it. So give them some ownership. Give them some ownership. That's so good, Corey. That's so good. Look at you. That's your one for the day. You're done.
Yeah, I am done.
Yeah, that's it. That's a wrap. That's
the way my neurospicy mind is. I am done.
I saw the glazed look on your eye. You were tapping out. So I wanted to make sure I got you before everybody else. James, go ahead and give us your final thoughts, sir.
Yeah, man. I'll say first, I'll say again, thank you for this opportunity. Just think about this too. We came up with this idea less than 24 hours ago, and after an hour and a half, there's still almost 60 people listening. That means this content is valuable, right? And piggybacking off of what Corey just said, talking about what Sean is doing, these conversations need to happen more because there's more good news happening. Right there's more good news that's happened that needs to be shared, and this could be that fuel that a lot of folks need. I'm getting filled because I'm loving this as well, just this engagement, this interaction. So let's continue to do this. There's a call to action to all of us. I mean, if Substack Live or whatever the case may be, just these types of Sunday morning sessions, this good news needs to continue to be shared, especially around entrepreneurs, because man, it's lonely sometimes, right? Because we sit in the lab and we do what we do, and man, it's tough. And if some of those dopamine hits and some of that engagement that doesn't hit the brain, then we don't know if it's growing or if it's working or not. I will also let me answer, because Al was asking about when we were talking about platforms. I wanted to be respectful of that. He was asking about Discord. Discord works for where it works. But Discord still has, in my opinion, still has a perception of being more geared towards kind of the gaming community. But it works, right, for what it works for. It's a huge learning curve, especially depending on a demographic if you're trying to reach. Listen, our seniors, our seasoned folks may not be down for Discord.
Yeah.
Right.
they not
the 12-year-olds to the 18-year-olds, they can get it because they get it. I'm a little more seasoned. I think I'm the oldest one on here. But Discord is a trip. I got it now, but it works where it works. And if it resonates with your community, then use it. Hey, it's free. It's open source. It's very robust in terms of what it offers, but it doesn't work for everything. And where the niche fits, then take a look at it.
Yeah.
I
think about Discord. I think about that game. I don't even know what the name of that game is. It's like you can build stuff and you can.
With that
like
Minecraft?
Minecraft.
Right.
I'm sorry, Dave. I didn't mean to cut you off. But I was just thinking about Discord. I was like, man, why did I think about Minecraft every time I think about Discord?
Well, see, again, that's the perception that you get. Now, we business minded folks, and we trying to build strategy. We trying to talk about revenue funnels and marketing. And if you tell a prospective client, "Hey, meet me over on Discord," they're like, "What? Hey, listen, I ain't playing Nintendo with you now. We so you got to knock down a wall before you even get to it. So just have that in mind. My thing is though, don't wait.
Yeah.
Don't wait.
Yeah.
Right, folks out here, we all are struggling. We and that's in a good way. We all just want to keep putting a dent in the universe. I work for Apple, and that's a quote from Steve Jobs. I got it in the back of my studio right here. All we're trying to do is put a dent in the universe. And if I can, again, reach one, teach one, help one person today, tomorrow, get to an aha moment, my day is
Mhm.
met. And I'm not going to get to that point if I don't turn this camera on, if I don't write a script, if I don't write a newsletter post, if I don't go put that work in, if I don't make myself and my business better. And there's nothing stopping me. There are no barriers of entry.
Mm.
Those days are gone. So there's no excuse. You've got people that are willing to help. Some of it is going to be free. A lot of it's going to be paid for. That is value. And again, don't pay for mess like we always do. If you want to pay for value and you want to actually get to that next level, the onus is on the individual as well. So yeah, again, man, just thanks for this opportunity. I
Yeah.
think that this was valuable. Part two, again, part three, continue on all that, man. And hopefully I can be on camera because again, I'm looking at the desktop. I'm not on video.
I
I got it
know.
on my tablet. I'm not on. I'm not feeling this. Just the voice from behind the curtain right now. But
Yeah. It was interesting. I'll leave everybody with this. I was meeting with a member, and we were doing a catch up and just having a conversation, and they shared something with me, and it's okay. I said, "Can I share this?" So I'm sharing it, and they said, "Steve, you know what? When you log in, you have to do sort of an introduction of yourself to the community." And they said, "You know what? And as I was going through this journey as a leader, it's like I didn't know what to say. I literally didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to put in there." And because I was like, who am I? Like, what? Like, I didn't realize how deep of a perspective and thought that people have when they're introducing themselves into their community. And it's like, wow, I didn't think about it that way. And now she's in a, they're in a different space, so they have a different perspective of who they are, and now they feel more comfortable with sharing an introduction. I said I wanted to use that story is because I think part of understanding and creating a community, there has to be an initial level of self-evaluation
Yeah.
of who you are and the level of authenticity that you want to provide within that community, because you have to provide a high level of authenticity within that community. And if you're unwilling to do that, then I don't think your community will be successful. Nor do I even think that the idea or concept that you will probably want to create is going to be successful if you're not willing to have that self-evaluation of who you are, what it is that you want to get out there, right? That part shouldn't. It shouldn't. You can do that. I am a build it. I am a build it while I'm on the way down type of guy. So I'm willing to try all types of stuff and then figure it out. So I think part of that self-evaluation is that I know who I am, and so I'm okay with doing it that way. So you have to make sure that you understand who you are, your personality type, all these different things. Because when you get into this community, your members are going to be asking you to be vulnerable. They're going to ask you some questions that you are going to be challenged with.
Yeah.
And if you're not willing and able to give them a very honest perspective and opinion, man, you're not gonna get a lot of the engagement or a connection that you want. So just think about that. I know that's probably maybe too deep that you were anticipating to for homework, but it is what it is. You're gonna get it. I'm an old school, used to be a professor, so I'm gonna give you some of that stuff. I appreciate all of you all
You
of
didn't let
you.
me get my tip.
You didn't give your tip?
No, you didn't
I
let me
thought
get
you
my
got your
tip.
tip.
I didn't
I
get
thought
my
you got your
tip.
tip.
No.
Oh, we'll give you your tip,
You
girl.
slipping, dog. You slipping.
My
I
bad.
know.
My bad.
Look,
My
because
bad.
his eyes are glazing over too. Look, all of
My
us.
bad,
It's
Tanya.
almost 2 hours.
I know, right?
I'm
What?
being summoned too. So listen.
Oh,
I
sorry.
know.
My
I'm
bad,
being.
Tanya.
I've got a dog downstairs that's like, "What is up?" So I'm gonna just say this: everything that you said, ditto. And I'm going to say, you're creating a shared identity. Do this. When you
Mm,
create your community, create a shared identity that you are constantly reinforcing by you showing up as the leader, being the example and the model of what you're saying that other people need to be in that space. So you don't get to disconnect from the community once you build it. You have to stay
mm,
connected and continue to share that identity with them, right? Because you talked about making sure that you know who you are and that you tell people who you are, but you got to show them.
mm,
That's all. That's
mm.
what I got.
That's so good.
I love that.
That's so good. That's so good. That's way better than what James or Corey
Yeah,
said.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. You ended the
That's
right
way
way.
better.
That's right.
That's way better. That's why I had to go
He was
last.
saving the
That's why I
best
had
for
to go
last.
last.
Yeah, he was saving the best for
Yeah, that's
last.
why I said that. That's why I said that. That's why I said that. I was, I did that. I did it on purpose.
Oh, look at that. We
Here you
cracked
go.
60. We cracked 60. Yes.
I know. I literally took a picture of it. I took a picture of it. That's what I was
Well, hold
doing.
on.
Let me
which
Am
take
I
one?
in
Let
the
me see.
picture? Because hold on. Let me make sure
take a
I'm in
picture
it.
of that. You know what I mean? Now we got to figure out how to get this thing going. I appreciate all of you. Like James said, I think, oh damn, man, she falling off. She
Uh-oh.
had to go feed the dog. You
I
good?
know.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you good?
Yeah.
I did. I thought about this, I think it was Friday, and I was like, oh man, let me see if they can do it. And I sent out some things like, like early Friday morning. As you guys know, that's my usual thing, go to super early. And all of you said yes. Corey gets upset because I'm pretty much his wake up call with a text message at like 5:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and so I do appreciate all of you. I appreciate everybody in the audience, everybody for being here as long as you have been. Yeah, we didn't lose any momentum. We started this thing at 12 o'clock. It's almost 2 hours, and we've only gained traction. So to James' point, this is a very important topic that people are willing to listen to. So there will be a part two to all of this. So really appreciate all of you, your comments and your thoughts. I grabbed all of the comments. I'm going to share with all of the people that's been on here too, so that way you can connect with some of your people too. So everybody, have a great rest of your Sunday. Amazing time talking to all of you, and have a great day. And God bless.
All right, brother. Y'all be good.
All right,
All right.
Corey. All right,
All right.
Tanya.
All right. Take care.
All right.